H.P. Lovecraft was undoubtedly one of the most definitive voices in the horror genre. The man died some 90 years ago, but remains one of the most influential writers whose stories are enough to give anyone nightmares. A pioneer of cosmic horror, his stories have always had a distinct style, which relies not on shock content, but on the inherent absurdity of the human experience. Thus, it's no wonder that so many writers have borrowed elements from his stories to weave their tales of terror and dread. Well, Japanese mangakas were no different, and over the years, we've seen shades of Lovecraft in some of the most beloved horror mangas of all time. Thus, in this marvelous video, we'll be listing out the 10 best Lovecraftian mangas of all time. The Hound and Other Stories by Go Tanabe. Like us, Go Tanabe has been obsessed with Lovecraft for quite a while now. But unlike us, he's a prolific illustrator who has the skills to bring Lovecraft's ungodly and grotesque visions to life. This is pretty evident from even a single glance at his 2014 graphic novel, The Hound and Other Stories, where he adapts 3 of Lovecraft's most well-known stories. The manga was published by Kadokawa Corporation in Japan, while the English translation was released by Dark Horse Comics. The first story in the novel is named The Temple, and is narrated in the form of a found manuscript written by Karl Heinrich Graf von Altberg-Ehrenstein, a lieutenant commander from the Imperial German Navy who served during World War I. This manuscript is an account of the man's last days at the bottom of the ocean. Due to some inexplicable circumstances, Karl and his comrades are left stranded at the bottom of the North Atlantic. Left without any hope of rescue, the occupants of Altberg's U-boat slowly go insane and fall upon each other. A slow exploration of the human psyche, this one is a must-read for all fans of Lovecraft. The next tale in the novel is The Hound, which is a tale of normal men succumbing to devastating ennui and overpowering tedium, feelings that gradually lead them to indulge in unnatural love affairs and perverse pleasure. The last tale in the novel is called The Nameless City, which is the tale of an ancient ruin located somewhere in the deserts of the Arabian Peninsula, which was once inhabited by a mysterious species of reptiles. This tale is an account of the civilization's prosperity and eventual fall. Junji Ito's Uzumaki. Probably the most prolific manga in this entire video, this tale comes from, of course, Junji Ito, one of the greatest horror mangakas of all time. Uzumaki ran from 1998 to 99 in the Shogakukan magazine and used a lot of Lovecraftian elements, but in a completely Japanese way. The story centers around the remote city of Kurozucho, where a supernatural curse has begun to take hold. The characters in the story gradually discover that their entire city is being consumed by mysterious spirals, which have manifested in some pretty unlikely places. Numerous occupants of the city grow increasingly obsessed with spirals, and eventually the spirals begin appearing everywhere. But the true horror begins when these spirals begin taking hold of individuals, prompting them to contort their very bodies in these strange shapes. The tale is told from the perspective of 2 high schoolers, Kiri Goshima and her boyfriend, Shuichi Sato. As the spirals begin growing more prevalent, the 2 teenagers realize that they're unable to escape from their small town no matter how hard they try. There is indeed something very relatable about the idea of not being able to leave home, especially when you're young, and this is where the horror of Uzumaki comes from. Junji Ito has often stated that Lovecraft is one of his greatest influences while working on Uzumaki, and to be honest, you can see it on every page of this masterful tale. Mai Iso Misto by Hideyuki Kikuchi. This is another story that borrows heavily from H.P. Lovecraft. Mai Iso Misto, or Hell Dr. Mephisto, began serialization in 2011 and ran until 2015 in Kadokawa magazine. It follows the titular Dr. Mephisto, a skillful and handsome healer who seems to have far too many secrets. As the story progresses, we learn that the man can heal fatal injuries, perform alchemy, and even summon vicious monsters to do whatever he desires. Despite this, the reader always remains uncertain regarding whether you can trust this handsome stranger, and this is where things get interesting. It has a pretty Lovecraftian way of weaving mythology into its narrative, and if you're a fan of such subjects, you should check it out. The Enigma of Amiga Fault by Junji Ito. Another masterpiece by the master, Junji Ito, The Enigma of Amiga Falls has a pretty strange way of seeping under the reader's skin. Its horror comes not from monsters, but from the complexity of human desire, and, well, there's nothing scarier than that. The story begins when an earthquake opens up a fault line in the Amigata Mountains. On the slopes, strange humanoid holes appear, and this discovery slowly begins to draw the attention of the global press. Scientists deduce that there's no way to measure the depth of these holes, and, well, there's just something about the idea of bottomless voids that's inherently terrifying. The tale unfolds from the perspective of 2 hikers, a man named Okaki and a woman named Yoshida, who find themselves strangely drawn towards the sounds emanating from the holes. Eventually, people begin to realize that some of the holes are shaped exactly like them, and they begin to disappear. If you're someone who suffers from claustrophobia, be warned, this story might scar you for life. Mushishi by Yuki Urushibara. Mushishi is a manga that ran from 1999 to 2002 in the pages of Afternoon Season's Zokan. The tale unfolds in an episodic manner with barely any overarching connectivity between the issues apart from the protagonist, Ginkgo. The story centers around the elusive Mushi, primitive life forms that possess supernatural abilities that most humans aren't even capable of perceiving. Our hero, Ginkgo, happens to be one of the few individuals with the ability to communicate with these ethereal entities. For most of the story, Ginkgo wanders from place to place as a Mushi master, seeking out people troubled by the Mushi to help them out. Although Mushishi does have some shades of horror, it's mostly a contemplative and laid-back experience that highlights the fact that the Mushi aren't evil. They're just trying to survive in a harsh and cruel world like everyone else, and the more Ginkgo learns about these creatures, the more we begin to empathize with them. Though this isn't the scariest manga on the list, it deserves a visit due to its ominous tone and sheer absurdity. This tale, written by Yuri Urushibara, also received a pretty faithful anime adaptation in 2005 and was renewed once again in 2014, which is just a testament to the longevity of the ideas presented in the manga. Aara by Tsutomu Nihei. Aara is a sci-fi manga that blends horror into its story extremely well. Penned by Tsutomu Nihei, it was published in Shueisha's seinen manga magazine from 2005 to 2006. This is a world where humans have destroyed Earth's environment, due to which they've been forced into congested cities connected by only a single highway and tubes. The changes in the environment have also caused many humans to mutate, providing them with almost supernatural physical abilities. Moreover, these mutants, known as ganas, have also attained the ability to reshape their skeletal structures to create armor and weaponry from their bones. These transformations can get extremely gruesome and are an excellent example of effective body horror. Over time, these white ganas have become the greatest threat to all of humankind, and for the story, we see the humans employ everything from weapons to time machines to try to stop them. The most important character in the story is a guy known as Kuro Denji, who was once part of an experiment designed to create human Gana hybrids known as black ganas, which would possess the powers of a white Gana but still retain their human conscience. There are multiple gritty battle scenes in the manga, and the intricately designed dystopia is always full of dread. Parasite by Hitoshi Iwaki. Parasitic Beasts, or Parasite, is hardly an unknown gem, as it's literally one of the best-selling mangas of all time. A heady mixture of body horror and battle manga, it's undoubtedly one of the most unique visions ever created. It centers around average 17-year-old high school student Shinichi Izumi, who lives in the small neighborhood of Fukuyama, Hiroshima. However, Shinichi's life is completely upturned when tiny worm-like aliens with drill bits for heads invade our planet. One of these parasites finds itself in Shinichi's home and makes its way inside of Shinichi by burrowing into his arm. It takes complete control of his right hand, but Shinichi can prevent the creature from traveling further and controlling his brain. This allows both Shinichi and the parasite known as Migi to survive the same body together while still carrying their separate personalities. As the story continues, the duo encounters multiple parasites and even begins forming a strong bond with each other. Though the show has its lighter moments, it's still a poignant exploration of humanity's relationship with the environment, as well as our inherently anthropocentric perspective on morality. Hellstar Rema by Junji Ito. Well, we promise that this is the last Junji Ito on this list, but to be honest, everything the man has ever written could actually be on this list and we'd be okay with it. After all, the mangaka just seems to get horror. This tale begins following the discovery of a mysterious rogue planet plummeting towards our solar system. The scientist behind the discovery of this planet decided to name it after his much-adored daughter, Remina Oguro. But soon, things take a rather dark turn. Calculations predict that the planet is on a direct collision course with Earth. Moreover, it seems to be destroying everything in its way with an almost homicidal glee. As it approaches, the world realizes that it's not a mere planet, but a fully sentient creature hell-bent on tormenting humanity and consuming the Earth. As the truth becomes known, the scientist's daughter, Remina, finds herself the target of numerous bloodthirsty mobs who believe that sacrificing her could bring an end to the destruction being wreaked by her namesake. The story ran for a year from 2004 to 2005, and it's one of Ito's more underrated tales, so we highly recommend you check this one out. The Shadow over Innsmouth by Go Tanabe. Another direct adaptation of a Lovecraft story, The Shadow over Innsmouth is one of the most disturbing tales penned by the author. Tanabe does an excellent job at bringing this vision to life through his lively illustrations, which is actually pretty difficult due to the rather abstract nature of Lovecraft's storytelling. The story is narrated by a student on an antiquarian tour of England who becomes obsessed with a piece of strange jewelry while visiting a museum. He tracks the piece to the desolated port of Innsmouth, where he encounters increasingly terrifying people and events. We learn of strange aquatic monsters capable of interbreeding with humans to produce amphibian hybrids. The longer the student stays in this strange town, the worse it gets, and soon, the boy is led to doubt everything, including his own ancestry. It's said that both of Lovecraft's parents passed away in a mental asylum, which created in the author a propensity towards depicting physical and mental degeneration. A lot of Lovecraft's paranoia is reflected in this tale, and it's undeniable that it's one of the most personal tales ever written by the author. Uruki Doji by Toshio Maeda. One of the older additions to this list, Toshio Maeda's erotic horror series Uruki Doji was published in Manga Aerotropia from 1985 to 1986. A formative work in the genre allows Amano Jiaku, a malevolent and sociopathic demon-human hybrid who's banished to Earth. His objective is to find the Chojin, an undefeated demon who's hiding within the body of a normal human being. The story also involves amphibian demons who want Chojin for their queen, as well as numerous other characters that are both funny and terrifying. Marvelous Verdict! Over the years, Lovecraftian horror has become more and more prevalent as a genre. As this list demonstrates, there have been numerous spins on these ideas over the years, and each has provided the genre with a very unique flavor. It's certain that we'll see more tales in this genre going forward, and to be honest, we can't wait. But what do you think? Are there any mangas that you would have liked to see on this list?